ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. Y'all better listen up. This sports talking tough. So if you got a cup, go on and raise it up. I'll raise one with you as we talk about the sports. It's raining stats and rumors. Let us give you the report. This is first 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to First 12 Ounces. This is episode, I believe, 9. I know I got last week's messed up. I think I called it 7 and it was 8, and I believe it's 9. Sorry, guys. We got our whole episodes and weeks are mixed up because we started on week 0. So that was episode 1. So it's got them thrown off a little bit. But hey, what a hell of a weekend. Happy Victory Monday, fellas, because all 3 of our teams won. 3-0. LSU won. Notre Dame won. Texas won. Only thing that could get better is if A&M played and lost. But they had an off week, so they got away with one. Other than that, I mean, let's get into it. Let's recap some of the games from this past week, and then we'll get into what's coming up this week. Let's start off with the teams that aren't ours. Bama had a rough start. Ended up finishing it with a win, but man, did they want to almost give that game away. What are the, from someone that's been in the SEC and seen the dominance of Alabama firsthand, what's it like to just see them struggle from one week to the next after losing? You know, they win Georgia, which is huge. Then they lose Vandy, and then they look horrible against South Carolina. Like,
I think I kind of expected it, right? Like, you don't just get to live on the top of the mountain. Like, Alabama fans right now are shitting themselves. They don't have any way to comprehend. Like, it's not normal to just beat everybody every week, like, and it not be a problem. Like, what they're going through now is just normal. This is what we all deal with. I mean, like, it's good, right? But they still keep figuring out a way to win. I'm ready for them to get 2 more losses. Like, get a couple more and go like, oh wait, you can, like, the season doesn't always have to go perfect. Like, because I think this is the norm for them. Like, I don't think they're in a reset year. Like, I think they just now come back to the pack. Like, they're gonna have this issue now because they don't have Nick Saban, and whether or not people want to admit it or not, I know the Gumps don't want to hear this. There ain't shit in Tuscaloosa that's gonna make people want to go. They had Bear Bryant and they had Saban. Saban doesn't even like Tuscaloosa. He called LSU "we" on game day accidentally, and Pat McAfee called him out on it. He's like, "That's crazy. You just said we." He's like, "I think we look good." He's like, "We didn't do this." He's like, "That's crazy. You just talked about LSU and said we." He doesn't like Tuscaloosa because there's nothing there except the Gumps everywhere.
wow, I didn't catch that. I missed that. Man, I wish I would have saw that. That's crazy. Like, that's a huge mistake. Like, how are you gonna say "we" to your opponent? Woo. That's a oh man. That's a rough one. Who's Alabama have this week? Alabama has who was it?
Alabama has
Good question.
I got it right here for us. They get Tennessee, which is going to be one of our pick 'em.
Oh,
Yes, that is one of our pick'em games. I completely forgot about that. And I'm the one that made the pick'ems. That's hard. In Knoxville. So it'll be a big one. So what do you think? We'll go ahead and foreshadow it and go into that one. What do we think? Now, we're not going to give our picks, but what are we thinking? I mean, it'll be first time the board. I think it's the board's first big time road game in the SEC, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if they look anywhere near what they've been doing, I mean, it's going to be a long night. I mean, I know we've watched Tennessee struggle the last 2-3 weeks, but I mean, if Alabama keeps targeting Ryan Williams like he's the second coming of Jesus, I mean, they're going to lose that game. They're going to come in and lose that game in Knoxville. I mean, that's a simple fact of the matter, because Ryan Williams last week, 7 or 8 receptions, I think, and 7 or 8 targets, and he pulled in like 3 or 4 of them. I think maybe he pulled in 3 of them. So, I mean, you keep targeting a young buck, they're going to know who you're throwing to every time. You're going to have to rely on Milroe's legs. Well, guess what? You got one of the best edge rushers in the country on the other side of you this week. So, it's going to be a dogfight, I think, for sure. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, it being a rivalry game, I think it's going to be – it can go either way.
Gotcha.
One advantage Alabama gets here is they put the game at 2:30, so it's not a night game in Neyland. Bad news for Bama, though, they don't have a run game, and they're going to struggle against teams that have good defensive line play, which Tennessee, Tennessee rolls out James Pierce, who might be the best in the country at it.
We also saw them. And you guys remember we saw them struggle against USF, who just stacked the box against them the whole game and kept Milroe from running the ball. So you rely on them to throw it. It's gonna be a long night, but we'll see.
And here's the other thing. Now, I think the question in this game is going to come down to how good is Nico? Is Nico the guy that looked great against Chattanooga and NC State, or is Nico the guy that's looked like a freshman quarterback? Because this Alabama secondary's got issues. Lenore Sellers is not a good passer, and Alabama just gave up 240 to him in the air and let him. He made a bonehead decision to end it, but he also scored a touchdown there to basically tie it or have a chance to. If Nico can throw it around, Bama could get themselves in a pickle here. But on the flip side, if Nico looks like a freshman, it might be a long night for Tennessee too. Like this one, I think either way could get ugly on either side of it.
Absolutely. And then we also saw Georgia struggle. Another one of the new top 25, top 10 teams. They struggled, and I mean, they won by 10, but they only won by 10 against a Mississippi State team, which was kind of crazy to me. But Buddha kind of alluded to it earlier. They kind of do that. Every once in a while, they'll have a game where they just kind of don't look like they're themselves, and then they turn it around quick. They got a big one here in Austin this week. It's one of our pick'ems as well, so we won't touch on it, but we'll see. We'll get your comments on how last week was played from.
I think Georgia's got a similar issue as Alabama's got. I think they got a little bit of issue on the perimeter and defense, right? Like the Mississippi State quarterback went for 300 yards, and he was the freshman of the week in the conference. Like they got a little bit of the same problem that Alabama's got. Like they're not as locked down. The way these defenses used to be so good was they could throw cornerbacks on islands and lock up receivers so you could stack the box and really get after teams. When you got to start doing help defense with the secondary, you start to lose some of that, and you start having guys have some success places. I don't know. I still think they're really good. I think this is by far Texas's biggest challenge this coming week. It's clearly one of our pick'ems, so we won't give the pick. It's a challenge for both teams. I think it's a big challenge for Georgia to figure out how to control Texas's weapons. And I think Georgia's also got an issue where Kirby Smart's frustrated. I think all of the off-field stuff is finally weighing on him. I mean, last week he's shoving a kid, and not one of his own kids. He's shoving a Mississippi State kid.
He shoved that
quarterback way on him. Like there's a lot of off-the-field problems there. It catches you at some point, and it feels like that may be catching him. I don't know. They get their biggest challenge of the year this weekend, so we'll see what it looks like.
Absolutely. And then the other big one that they had with another taking a loss would be Oregon, Ohio State. The bonehead mistake by Will Howard, but it just goes to show you that like we've kind of said since last year, or we said it. We started saying it last year, and we kind of never really stopped. Ryan Day has trouble winning these big games. It seems like something happens. It happened to be a mishap from quarterback play this time, but you can't continue to lose the big ones. And this isn't even their biggest one. This is maybe the biggest one this year, but he's still got to beat Michigan again. And as bad as Michigan looked, Michigan's had Ryan Day's number since he's been on campus. I think he's won one game out of the entire time that he's been there, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
They've only played 4. He's only because they skipped the game for a COVID year. They didn't play it that year.
Yes.
Yeah. Beat Michigan.
He's beat them once, I believe. I think his first year that he took over as like the interim whatever coach, they won.
Interim head coach, they won, and then they haven't won since.
Yeah, since then I don't believe they've won. He's won it then, and it was a big win then. But since then, I don't think he's won. I could be mistaken though, but I'm pretty sure on that one.
I think Ohio State losing in Day, that's a big story. I think the bigger story is what Dan Lanning's got going on in Oregon. You see the movie pool at the end of that game where he put 12 men on the field intentionally?
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Well, looking back on it, it made sense. Apparently, they didn't have the right coverage, so he sent a 12th man out to avoid getting hit over the top. Knew they could take the penalty, and it would also run the time.
That is.
So what he did was, we're going to get beat on this play. He just sent a kid in to make sure that didn't happen, and went, we'll just take our 5-yard penalty and let. So they gave up, and the way it worked out is they gave up 5 yards, but it ran 6 seconds off the clock. So in that situation, you would always go. Which, if you look at how the game finished, that's the difference. If you give those 6 seconds back, Will Howard slides right there. They call a timeout. There's 4 seconds left after he calls a timeout. They kick
a field goal, ball game.
Dan Lanning won the game. Unbelievable statement victory for him. I think as bad as it looks on Ryan Day, it's as good as it looks on Dan Lanning. And then Oregon's schedule is insanely favorable.
I don't even know who they have left.
They've got they've got basically Illinois and Michigan left.
And I think Michigan will be pretty easy, and Illinois may be their biggest push, but even then, I think they handle Illinois pretty well.
Well, Illinois and Michigan play this weekend, so one of those teams won't.
Yeah,
because they'll both have when they play. So they really only have one more ranked game on the schedule that you could realistically see.
Yes, Illinois.
Yeah,
that nuts.
It's extremely favorable.
Absolutely. Here's something else that they don't play Penn. They wouldn't play Penn State till the Big Ten championship if they played them.
Yeah, and that's again like we've talked about with the SEC. I think whoever the two teams that play in the Big Ten title are both in the playoff. I think at that point you're just finding out who's going to have the bye game, who's going to have the bye week.
Oh, and also, I hate saying this, IU right now, I don't know if you guys have looked at their schedule. They're ranked 16th right now. Their schedule is a freaking cakewalk the rest of the year. I think they play Michigan, and then I think maybe they have Ohio State at the end of the year, maybe. But it's they could theoretically only lose one more game on their schedule if you look at it.
Yeah, they got Washington, Michigan State, then Michigan, then Ohio State, and Purdue. So yeah,
that's what I'm saying. You could realistically only lose to Ohio State on that because you could go in and beat Michigan. I mean,
wow, it's going to be a tight top 12.
Big Ten's going to be tight this year on that top end, but I mean we'll see what comes out of it. But
that's where it's going to come down to which one of the two big conferences are going to have the more selected in. Will it be the SEC with a possible 2-loss team coming in ahead of a 1-loss Big Ten team? It's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. And then you got to still think about the Big 12. If the Big 12 doesn't put somebody in undefeated, how are they going to work? How's that going to work out? Where do they fall on the totem pole of conference picks and positioning for it's going to be super interesting.
I'm looking at Penn State's schedule. Penn State's ranked 3 right now, and they got Ohio State at home, and that's about it on the schedule. Yeah. That's daunting. Where they could sneak in. It looks like that it's going to come down to Ohio State's still very much so in the mix.
Yes. 100%.
So the 4 teams this thing's going to come down to in the Big Ten is going to be Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, and Ohio State. I don't see anybody else from that conference, really. I think some of them drop. Michigan's clearly not a real threat.
Illinois will drop. I mean, I hate saying that, but I know Illinois is probably going to drop.
The SEC, though, we talk about what team's going to get, what conference is going to get more, 4 of the top 10 right now is SEC schools. You've got Texas at 1. You've got Georgia at 5. You got LSU and Bama at 7 and 8.
Ole Miss.
You got A&M who's sitting right on the outside. If they LSU, all of a sudden A&M jumps into being a top 10 team more than likely. You still got Mizzou, who's got a lot left on the schedule. Both conferences are probably going to have 4 teams vying for spots when it all the. And I think the Big 12 ends up having 1 team.
Yeah,
conference is all they get.
Same thing as the ACC. I think the ACC has their champion in, and that's it.
I don't know, dude. Making a push.
They are making that first game something, and then now they're just playing ball. It's gonna be. It's not gonna be as clear as people thought it would be.
Pitt 6-0.
Yeah.
Everybody forget about Pitt. Where are they ranked? What is Pitt ranked?
They are 20th.
I was gonna say they're like 18 or no higher than.
Wow. All right. Notre Dame got a big one this weekend. Georgia Tech. At Georgia Tech too, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it's at Tech.
That's gonna be a tough. That'll be a tough one. Just depending on what type of run game Georgia Tech's gonna pull out. How good.
And also it got a lot tougher. I don't know if you guys saw the news today, but our best cornerback, Ben Morrison, he is out for the year with a hip injury.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so BMO's out for the year on injury, so they're going to have to elevate that freshman we've been playing. So he's going to move up in the depth chart. He's looked really good, I think. So I mean, hopefully he can get some help from Watts over the top. But I mean, we're going to have to see how it goes. I mean, our run defense is really going to have to show up this week, and Jack Kaiser's going to have to take full reins of that defense because. Georgia Tech's tough. I mean, they're a tough team. They can run and throw the ball. Pretty sure their quarterback's a dual threat guy. He can get you on the ground and then he can get you over the top too. Which, I mean, from watching Notre Dame's past couple of games, teams that have gone against them through the air doesn't work well. But that was with Morrison playing, so I don't know how that's going to work out. I still do trust their run defense or their pass defense. Their rush defense is just going to really have to show up this week. So. That'll be one of our bigger things to overcome. So sucks to see BMO out for the rest of the year. But one thing I would like to touch on, Riley Leonard is actually using his transfers now better. Thank God. Chris Mitchell finally got some receptions this week. Mitch Evans is a fraud. And Bo Collins is doing what he does. So, Bo Collins had like 3 receptions, 86 yards last week. And then Chris Mitchell finally found pay dirt last week. 4 receptions, 51 yards, and got to get a little taste of the end zone. On top of Leonard obviously rushing one in, and then they ran both of our running backs. So our backup Price, they ran him, I think, 12 times this past game, and they only ran Jeremiah Love, I think, 8 rushes. And then Riley Leonard chipped in, I think, 10 as well. So, and they all 3 of them scored rushing touchdown. So. He was kind of feeding it around a little bit. I still don't understand why we're not using Mitch Evans to his full potential. I know he was preseason, like top tight end of the country was supposed to be. And that's, not looking like it's going to be his. It's either going to be, who is it, Mason from LSU. It's either going to be between him and Helm, honestly, in my opinion. Or unless Tyler Warren out of Penn State keeps repeating how he was playing because dude was looking like Marvin Harrison Jr. out there playing on Saturday. So.
Yeah,
I think we could take the game. It's just, I mean, it's going to be, I think, a lot closer than probably what the odds makers have it at, which I don't even know what the odds are right now. I haven't even checked, but I would say it's probably no more than 5 points, and I would say maybe as low as 2 is my best guess, but I haven't been able to check yet.
Notre Dame is currently favored by 11.
11? Okay, well, that I would personally probably give it 2 to 5, especially if they're going to run the ball. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I mean, I think Georgia Tech's going to be a pretty tough game. So,
and then one of the most electrifying games of the year so far is LSU Ole Miss. We did touch on it on Coffee and Cover too, but man, the more and more you look at the game, the more and more you see LSU's defense step up, and if that defense continues to step up like that, and I said it before we started, and I'll let Buddha allude to his answer like he did off air. I think it seems to me that LSU is playing up and down to their competition. It just seems like when it's a tough team, they show up. When it's not a tough team, they kind of just like, hey, we'll get this. But like Buddha said, I think that there's a change in the defense. That's how I'll send it to you, Buddha. What's the change in the defense that got it to step up to the way it has?
Well, I think they play a big amount of true freshmen. I mean, 5+ freshmen get snaps on that defense. So I think while if you look at the schedule today, you would go, man, you played really bad against a Nichols team, and you played really good against an Ole Miss team. I think it's more of a product of growth throughout the season and where those two teams fit on the schedule. Because even if you look at the last game they played against South Alabama, they dominated that game against a team that had put up 87 points 2 weeks prior and had put up almost 50 the week before. So the defense has gotten significantly better. They play with good technique. And you've really found, I think the biggest change is you found a legitimate linebacking core that plays at a very high level in Greg Penn and Whit Weeks. I mean, Whit Weeks has been phenomenal. He's one of the better linebackers in the country right now, I would say. I don't think there's many that are better than him. And I think that's the thing. And these guys get more time on task. These freshmen get more reps. They understand more. I think there's also a little bit more belief now going through. I mean, these guys are 18 years old. The defense was thoroughly impressive. LSU was impressive as a whole, outside of the fact that they didn't lead the game for any seconds.
Yeah.
LSU led the game for 0 seconds.
Until it mattered. Until there was no time left. That's when
They led the
that's when it matters. When you have a walk off just dot like that. I mean, I guess you can let them lead the whole game. Just get it when it counts. I mean, y'all got a big one this week too. Arkansas is a rival. Y'all are playing for the Golden Boot. Who won it last year? Did y'all win it last year or did they?
We won it last year. We've won it the last 2 years. Kelly's 2-0 against them. Both have been by 3 points. One big storyline to kind of follow with the LSU Arkansas game is that Jalen Green is not 100% a go. He's still up in the air as of today, whether or not he can go. He had a significant knee injury. So even if he does go, what does he look like? I think it greatly benefits LSU if he's not mobile, because then you can kind of tee off on him with a team that's, I think, 4th in the country in sacks right now. And then, Arkansas has a really good edge player in Landon Jackson that doesn't really create a lot of alarm for me. If we look back at the LSU Ole Miss game, Ole Miss was leading the country in sacks. They got 0 against LSU. Also saw a stat today that Will Campbell is as advertised. Will Campbell had 57 dropbacks, 56 dropbacks in pass blocking, and he allowed 0 pressures. I mean, he's as advertised. I mean, the LSU pass blocking offensive line play is as good as we've ever seen in college football. It is an unbelievable pass blocking unit. They've got some room to grow rushing the ball, rush blocking, but pass blocking, it is an elite group. This game will be tight. It's in Fayetteville. It's a massive game for Arkansas. They have belief. They just took down a Tennessee team a couple weeks ago, so they clearly think they can do it. They don't think you're as good as Tennessee is. This game's going to come down to how do these young guys on LSU's defense respond to the pat on the ass? Because you're getting a lot of pats on the ass this week. How do you respond to people thinking you're good? Can you still show up and be good, or do you go in going, well, we're good? I think that's what this game comes down to, is can the freshmen handle expectation now? Because now the expectation is that they're a good unit and that they're going to get stops. Can you handle it? That's the difference in this game when it comes down to it, in my opinion.
Got you. Then my next question about this game also. Are we going to finally see an LSU run game? It's been something we've kind of been fiending for. I've been asking about it probably week in and week out. It's been there at times, and then it kind of fades. What do you think we're going to get out of that run team this week?
I actually think you're going to see a little bit more of Nuss using his feet. Not necessarily in a called run, not called runs, but if you're watching the game, and they talked about a lot on the TV copy, there was a ton of times where Nuss probably could have took off and got 5 or 6. I think you'll start to see a little bit more of that. Like, hey, if it's covered and you can go get 6, do it. So I think the numbers get a little bit better, which I think if he becomes a weapon enough to threaten you with his legs, that opens up run lanes for other guys too. The run game was a little bit more productive than I had thought. They did put up 85 yards, which It's not great, and it was an ugly 85. It was they averaged 3.5 a carry, but I think it'll be better. I think that's the best D line they're going to play all year. What they just played. So no, I think it's. I don't know. I don't think they're going to be an elite running team at all. I think they're going to be serviceable, get you 100, and kind of go from there and do what you did Saturday. Nuss, go win football games. We don't care if you mess up. We're going to keep letting you sling it. Go win.
Yeah, and when he started slinging it, I think I said it when we were watching the game. I said, hey man, it seems like he's rushing stuff. When he's not rushing it, he's slinging it like he knows what he's doing with it. And then when he was making some tight throws to the point where I'm just like, why would you throw that? And then it's a touchdown, and you're like, I mean, never mind. I'm not going to question it. It's a touchdown. Um, the dude, like you said, he's a gunslinger. He takes risk that most people wouldn't take, and he's just like, hey, we'll live with it and roll with it. I don't think we need to beat the dead horse that we've been harping on for the past couple of weeks. And in OU, Texas did win big, win fairly easy. We got a big one this week in Georgia. Should be a fun one here at Austin. Everything's going on. F1, the end of ACL, like it's gonna be insane. Everything's going on. M&M's playing at the Moody Center, like it's gonna be nuts. I think somebody posted actual rental properties right now in the city, and they're insane. Insane. Like insane. But it is what it is. Should be a good game. Game day will be here in Austin. It's a night game. I think it's only our second night game of the year, second or third night game of the year, so it should be a fun one. They'll have the drone show and everything else that they always do, so it should be a good one. I'm looking forward to it, especially after Georgia looking kind of sloppy like they did this past week. We'll see. Hopefully Quinn can get it together. He was a little rusty in that game against OU, but I mean, hey, he still scored 34 points, so can't really complain too much. He did what he had to do. He had one horrible throw for a pick, and then he missed a few guys and some other throws. But other than that, he played lights out. Our running game showed up, which was very impressive. What we needed to see come out of this Texas team, and defense played lights out. So we'll see how it goes up against Georgia. Other than that, we got the new release of the top 25 today. What were y'all's thoughts on it? Anything that stood out to y'all that made you question anything?
Not particularly, no.
I thought it all set pretty good. I mean, I didn't see anybody that moved. I mean, too many spots one way or another that I was like, holy shit! Like, why the hell are they ranked? Thank God, finally the service schools got some freaking respect this week.
Absolutely.
Good God Almighty! I mean it.
Absolutely.
I mean, 25 and 23. Okay, I'm fine with it. Whatever. It's fine. But still, finally. I mean, after they've been blowing teams out of the water, you finally give some respect to them. But again, that could be a scenario at the end of the year that could be absolutely insane when it come setting up the college football playoff bracket.
Absolutely.
But so yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to touch on, of course, because those are my teams this year.
I mean, and as of right now, if we were going, if the I know the playoff rankings don't come out until 2 weeks, but if you would take the top 12 now, all three of our teams would make it with Notre Dame coming in at 12.
Notre Dame would not.
What do you mean they would not make it? Well, but yeah, based off of all the conference plays,
they would bounce, so Army would actually get it if you look at them just a flat rank.
Because Army would win their conference. Yeah.
Yep.
Which is crazy. But hey, y'all still got to play them before the end of the year too.
We'd play both of them. We got to play Heisman Horvath and whoever the hell that other guy is. So yeah, got to play both of them. So we'll see how it goes.
Still a lot of big games on the schedule for all our teams. I think me and Buddha alluded to a game that neither one of us thought would be a game that we would be circling for both of our teams, and both of us playing Texas A&M when we play them. Those games might actually have a whole lot more meaning into it if A&M keeps playing the way they're playing. And it's, I think y'all have A&M after Arkansas, Buddha?
Yes, we go Arkansas at A&M. Now, A&M's it's a we'll find out who they are next weekend, right? Like they played Notre Dame and lost that game by 10. Like people are kind of forgetting that with this A&M team, and since then you've beat a McNeese team. You beat Florida when they didn't know who their quarterback was. And I don't know if you checked, Florida's not very good. They beat Bowling Green by 6. Right? Like, they beat Bowling Green by 6. And then they beat an Arkansas team who turned the ball over. I want to say they lost the turnover battle 3-0 and still only lost by 4 points. Like, A&M's kind of sneaking in. And they go to Mississippi State this week. And then you find out, because then they go LSU and then at South Carolina.
Well, and if Mississippi State plays them anyway, like they played Georgia, that could be another game where Mississippi State upsets A&M.
Look, Mississippi State's got 6 quarters of football to show that they can be a frisky team. They played
Exactly.
Texas, as anybody's played Texas for 2 quarters, and they just took Georgia to the wire. Like, I don't think they're top end good enough to win anything, but they're frisky where you don't want to get into a late fourth quarter game with them. Like, they're one of those teams that they might get somebody. They may just sneak up and grab somebody once and go like, "Gotcha."
Yeah, Vandy. Just like Vandy, they've been playing teams close, and that's what happens. You go in and you think, we're gonna dog the shit out of them. Nope. Well, guess what? You better wake the fuck up because you're getting ready to get upset, and you do.
I'll put it this: if Vandy wins this week, or Vandy's a win away from being ranked.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because
came in at 26. Like, they're a win
Yeah.
away from get ranked.
Yeah, who are they playing this week?
Let's see.
Let me see here real quick. I'll tell you who they play.
Oh, they play Ball State.
Oh, they're winning that.
Ball State, and then then Texas goes to Nashville.
So so they're prepping for Texas. So I don't know, maybe Ball State upsets them, and then they move down the ranking.
I don't know, but they're a dangerous team, and they're sitting on a schedule.
There's a realistic chance they're 5-2. I mean, like, we always looked at the Texas schedule as the hard slate was going to be OU Georgia.
Yep.
I think when we look back on the season, you're going to go, the Georgia was part of the 2 slate, but it was the Georgia Vandy game because Vanderbilt's better than Oklahoma. If right now Vanderbilt and Oklahoma played, I would have Vandy favored by like 6.5 is what I would have, and I'd have the over under at like 45.5 simply because OU can't score. Vandy's pretty good. Like, Vandy's a pretty damn good team. Peso Pavia gets it done. And the most impressive thing they've done this year was you just had the biggest win in program history. And then you went play a Kentucky team who's been tough, and you beat them. Like, you didn't go like the season's over. You beat them. Now you get a Ball State team, so you get to 5-2, and then let's go really shock the world. We've already beat one once.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
They're a good team.
Yeah, and they're looking to upset some people, and I mean, they're dangerous. They're very dangerous. I mean, anytime you upset Alabama in the way that they did, it's kind of like, hey, you fuck around, you're gonna find out, and you don't want to be that team that does that, especially now because it's starting to get down to the end of the season, where those losses are going to stick out more than anything else. We did touch on them, so we'll go ahead and touch on what they got this week and what Buddha kind of alluded to earlier before we started the pod. OU South Carolina. Well, let's just finish up what you did before we got on. Ole Miss's remaining slate to start this. OU over South Carolina?
No, I said you said Ole Miss. So I'll say OU.
Yeah.
Realistically, when you look at OU's final schedule, this is for all intents and purposes, a must-win. And when I say a must-win, it's not to – I don't think it's a must-win because it's the only way you get back in the playoff mix. I think it enters must-win territory if you want to play in a bowl game. When I look at their schedule, so like for people listening, they've got South Carolina this week, and then they go to Ole Miss. They get Maine, but then they go to Missouri. They get Alabama at home, and then to LSU. They can't move the football. They have their inept on the offensive side of the ball. The defense is opportunistic, but it lacks dudes. They don't have dudes. Billy Bowman is not what people think he is. I think the video we put out probably showed some of that. South Carolina's got dudes up front. Like, if you couldn't move the ball against Texas, you're probably not going to move the ball against South Carolina because they're going to bring a similar style of defense at you because you don't have a quarterback that can throw the ball. So teams just load the box, and when you do drop back, they just bring it. South Carolina's got Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard, who are two of the best defensive ends in the country. Then you get Ole Miss. Ole Miss might have the best D-line in the country. And they can, and Ole Miss is going to score 30 plus in that game. I don't think OU can score 30 plus against a competent defense. You'll beat Maine because you put Maine there. Yippee. Mizzou, I don't think Mizzou's great. I just think OU's bad.
I think that's going to be one of those games. It's like a 17-14, down to the wire game. I mean, or like 10-7. Because really, if you shut down Burden, Mizzou fucking sucks. I mean, they're in the same boat, and he's as much of a prima donna that if he doesn't get the ball, he's even more pissed. So if he's not getting the ball and he gets shut down, Mizzou's done. And then OU can't move the damn ball. So I mean, then what are you gonna do? You're gonna be kicking field goals the whole game.
I look at the schedule. When I look at the games, I look at how you match up against teams. Alabama, as we said earlier, they've got issues in the secondary. OU can't expose that when they get there. LSU, their biggest problem on defense is the safety play. OU can't expose that. And then LSU's going to throw the ball around on OU. Jalen and Ryan Williams are going to have a field day. I just look at their schedule, and I think this week's a must-win. Because if not, I think you go to Death Valley to end the year, and you're 5-6. With an LSU team that looks like they got every business to be ranked in the top 10 at that point. Going, we're playing for real stuff. You're trying to play in the Cheez-It Bowl.
and you alluded to it. When was it? 2 weeks ago? Before you said it on the podcast. You said if we get past Ole Miss, we are back in it. We're back in the hunt. Our schedule is kind of favorable outside of us and Bama, but we're back in the hunt. And boy, were you right, because the SEC is going to be tight on all ends on who's getting in and who's getting left out. Not only in the playoffs, but in the SEC championship. The top three teams right now is Texas A&M, Texas, and LSU. How great would it be if it's LSU and Texas in the SEC championship? Fireworks.
I'm taking a vacation that week because both y'all are gonna beat the shit out of each other.
I would I don't know. I think the team that's going to fare best in the SEC, and we talked about this early in the year, the team that comes in third in the conference is going to fare best
because they get that out.
Let's say it's LSU, A&M, and Texas, and that's how this thing finishes out. And LSU and Texas go play in the conference title game, or let's do this one: A&M and Texas go rematch it. You think they're not going to play hard? Well, the team that's in third place is going to be ranked like 8th. Yeah, they're going to be there going, go beat each other up. This is our bye week. I'm glad you won. Gets a bye week. We get ours this week.
Yeah, and then when we start the playoffs,
and then you get like a Penn State team who can't. You got James Franklin who can't beat nobody.
Yeah, you got the easiest walk to the semis pretty much, because of where you fall in the playoffs rankings. Which I can't wait for the rankings to come out for the playoffs in 2 weeks. It'll be interesting. It'll be after the Texas Vandy game. It'll be after the A&M LSU game. So it'll be huge. It'll be huge where these teams fall and what they're going to do. A lot of football left, but it's getting tight. It's starting to get tight where no mistakes can happen anymore. And honestly, this is the sloppiest. I say sloppiest, but I mean, it seems like the sloppiest the SEC's been with their big names in a while. I mean, this is the first time I think Georgia and Alabama's had a regular season loss
before each other. Yeah, in the postseason. Yeah.
Like, this is nuts.
It's very interesting. I think Texas entered the SEC at the optimal time. You call it the first year of post-Saban era. You got a Georgia team who literally gets arrested. Like, they just go arrest players weekly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's like, it's a joke, but like, it's also true.
I mean, they're losing starters left and right. Anything. Doesn't matter. DUIs, domestic disturbance, domestic violence, anything. That doesn't matter. They're getting fucking canned for it and getting suspended.
And I mean, then like Buddha said earlier, I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if it was on here or was outside off of the pod. But I mean, what's going on with Kirby and pushing unintentional, intentional pushing? Like what's that about? Like it's
I,
it's a
I, I
mess.
think I think with Kirby, I mean, I think it's really just coming down. It's just slowly he just keeps coming to a boil because he keeps losing players. He doesn't know how to contain any of them. I mean, he's not coaching and being a mentor to these guys. And what he is, obviously they're not listening. They're going out and doing whatever the fuck else they want to do. And then you're playing teams you should be blowing out by 24 points. You're playing them to 10, or you're playing them to 7 or 3 or whatever. So it's a tough look for Georgia this year for sure.
But again,
Absolutely.
they get an opportunity this weekend to right all the wrongs. If Georgia shows up and beats Texas, then it's right back to being like Kirby's the best Kirby's the best coach. They're the best team, and it's close. Like that's the thing. That's what college football is so awesome, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
if LSU goes lose to Arkansas, it'll be Ole Miss sucks and LSU's overrated. Like it'll just everything can change in the next few weeks.
Absolutely. And that being a question, what are the odds for Ole Miss to get back in this hunt?
Who's on their schedule?
It's not
So
good.
I was gonna say I don't know off the top of my head, obviously, and I can't check from my phone.
No,
Well,
so
I can, but
we think the LSU Ole Miss game was essentially an elimination game from the playoff.
So they have a bye week this week, and then they go
They get OU,
OU, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, and Mississippi State.
I think the
oh
key,
my god,
but they're now at 18. They've now fallen to be ranked 18th. If you lose the Georgia game, you'd have 3 losses. So essentially, they have to win out, and that includes beating Georgia, who even if Georgia loses to Texas this week, would still only have 2, and they're a better roster and they're probably a better coach team. I think, for all intents and purposes, Ole Miss is probably done with the high end expectations. Like I don't think they can get back in the real mix of this thing. Also, because you have 2 conference losses now, like that's a huge number. You're 1-2 in the conference.
And then this also brings up the next question that goes with that. If Ole Miss is out, what are the talks and the rumors swirling to Lane to Florida? Is that something that's going to have heat more if Ole Miss is out? Because I mean, you think if they lose that Georgia game, they only got 2 games left. They're essentially out of the college football playoff. Does it look like he's gonna make that flip and he's gonna make that jump to Florida, like some people are saying and some people are thinking?
I mean, I think he could. I don't know. I mean, he's got a little bit of Ryan Day in him. Lane has really struggled in important games, right? Like his best win is the LSU win last year. Is probably right. Like that's probably his best win against an LSU team that had the worst defense in its program history. Like he struggled against. I think Lane's a great guy to get you in the door. Like he'll make you. You'll win 9, 10 games every year, but you're going to lose the important ones. I guess Florida might want to do that. I could see it, but I don't really know what Florida would offer him that Ole Miss isn't currently offering him.
Got it. Yeah, I think the main thing that you hear from everyone else is, hey, Florida's a better job than Ole Miss, which I'm not going to argue with. It probably is, just because I mean it's recruiting hotbed and everything else. But for him to walk away from what he's built at Ole Miss, but like we said before, we've all talked about it before. You said it. It seems like Lane's a sicko for that. He loves rebuilds. He jumped ship from Tennessee to head to USC, and then went to FAU after he got let go at USC and jumped there to go to Ole Miss. So it's like, would he make that?
I think the guy that's going to be on the market is Lincoln Riley.
Do you think he makes that jump though? Because the rumor was he left OU because he didn't want to be part of the SEC.
No, but I think Lane Kiffin back to SC
Oh,
makes more sense to me than Florida. And people are going to look at it when they hear that and go like, yeah, right. USC's not, I mean, Lincoln's now lost. What did they finish last year? I mean, it's bad. He's like 4-10 in his last 4. I mean, it's bad, right? Like, and they're losing games. Like, I mean, you lost to Minnesota. You had Penn State you should have beat them. Like Michigan, who's not been very good. You give up 27 points to a Michigan team, and then you get Notre Dame to finish the season off. Like, I just think, and also, what did Lincoln ever do at OU? Like, he's another guy. Like, we kind of got to talk about like in the same vein as Lane. Like, OU was really good in those, but every time they played somebody that was stronger than them, more physical, they would get popped. Like, I know, like, everybody's gonna, like, yeah, I'm clearly talking about the 63-28 game where LSU beat the brakes off of them.
Yeah. I mean, and he, like you said, he hasn't really done anything at SC outside of winning the Heisman with Caleb Williams. Other than that, I'm sitting here trying to scratch my head and think of a key win that he had at SC, and I can't think of one at all. Like, at all. No clue of a key victory that he's had while he's been at USC. I don't have one. I mean, and then like you said, Ole Miss. Go ahead.
Lincoln, he beat LSU.
Oh yeah, I mean you could say yeah.
To be in a signature win for him. I don't know. I mean, when we talk about Lincoln, like, at what point are we just going to be like, this guy is Cliff Kingsbury? Like, at what point we start talking about it? Like, he's a really good quarterback guy. Like, I believe that. Like, I genuinely believe that he is a quarterback coach. Like, he will always have a good quarterback. He will always call plays at a high level. He coaches very soft. It's very lack of physicality. He does not handle getting punched in the mouth well, and he can't win big games. Lincoln Riley's not an elite football coach by any stretch. He's a great quarterbacks coach. He is he's a gold-plated Cliff Kingsbury. That's all he is.
Then the other thing you got to think about what's going on at USC is, I said it earlier on one of our earlier podcasts, Pete Carroll's back on campus. Pete Carroll is a teacher at USC. So you got to think, if that alumni base starts to get itchy for something to happen, Pete's on campus. That could happen. But because they did ask Pete Carroll about him. Hey, we saw your coach, we saw you back on campus as a teacher, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm just doing what I love. Like, okay. Oh, does that put a little heat? I mean, you got to think, if you're a head coach of a university and here comes a former national championship coach back on campus just as a teacher only, how do you take that?
I don't think Pete would be a good college coach anymore.
Just because he can't pay him under the table.
Be a good one. I think there's a chance there's going to be 4 really big jobs open. Because I do think there's a world where Lane leaves. I don't think they're not going to get rid of Lane. Like, Lane is still going to be viewed as sought after as one of the top commodities. I don't think Brent Venables survives the year.
You think he's going to after the contract extension?
I think if you're OU right now and you're the OU fan base, you entered the SEC the same exact year as Texas, your biggest rival. So far in 1 year of SEC play, Texas looks like the best team in the country, and you look horrible. And it looks like it's pulling apart right now. It looks like Texas, Sark has got them on a rocket ship up, and it looks like Brent Venables has got cinder blocks on in a pool. He's a bad coach. I think he should be fired today, is my personal thought. And again, it's coaching malpractice to run off a quarterback, and I don't want to hear the nonsense. When I watch Oklahoma play and I watch Brent Venables, he is the college Dennis Allen. They are the Saints. They are the Saints. You've got a defensive-minded head coach who's specifically supposed to be good with secondary players. You're not great on defense. You're opportunistic. You do turn the ball over, but you give up a ton of yardage. You don't play well, and you don't have a lot of dudes. You've made bad decisions. You emptied the bank account for a defensive tackle who had 1 sack against Power 5 schools last year, who's been irrelevant to this point. I don't know how, if I'm an OU fan, I could look at Brent Venables and say, I think he could ever accomplish anything of importance while he's the coach here. I think the longer you leave him at the helm, the further you're going to dig this thing into the mud. And at the end of the day, in the NIL world, there's not a lot that Norman offers outside of winning tradition. So if you let him taint the winning tradition, you don't have anything. You have nothing except a t-shirt that says you fear God. You have nothing else after that because there's nothing that's going to draw people to Norman. Because, yes, they have the conference behind them. So do 15 other teams now. It's not this elite club it used to be where it was this 12-team group. There's 15 other schools that have it. If you allow him to taint the tradition and you do what people have done now at Florida, there's a group of high school kids that will not know OU as a winner. You will be the next version of Nebraska. I feel like if they don't bounce him, Oklahoma will beat Nebraska in 5 years. They will be the team that's like, remember when they were really good? What's it going to take to get them back? That's where, to me, they're heading. And that's not me hating on OU because we have a Texas guy on the show. That's like when I look at it, that's what I genuinely think. That you've got a guy that's running this thing into the dirt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think I've said that since I think I said it last year. I started chiming on it last year, saying that Venables wasn't the guy. I feel the same way. I'm not going to touch it because I touch it enough, and people get their feelings hurt when I do. So I'll leave it alone. But I think that's pretty much all we got this week. Any other touching thing? Oh, players of the week. Let's get them. I'm going to roll.
So, go ahead, Pete.
I'm going to roll with Ham. Big boy went off. 5 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Dude looked like a problem the entire game. Was trying to hurdle people when he jumped in the air. I was like, oh, that. He got away with it one time this year. I was kind of like, oh, come on, man. But hey, Gunnar Helm went off. He had a phenomenal game. He was pretty much the star of our offense outside. I mean, well, he was one of the stars because everybody kind of looked good on offense for us. But what you got, Bo?
So, as many of you probably guessed, I'm going to be rolling with Tyler Warren for my player of the week. He had 237 total yards of offense by himself in that Penn State USC game. Single-handedly brought them back, by the way. 17 receptions, 224 yards and a touchdown, as well as a completed pass for 9 yards. And then he lined up under center and rushed too. So did a little bit of everything this week. Got them the win over USC. I could give 2 less shits about Drew Aller. He doesn't have Warren, they don't win. I mean, simple as that. So obviously rolling with him. Ashton Jen, another great week for him, of course. So I mean, he's be my number 2. And then I think even Army's quarterback, I think he rushed in like 3 or 4 touchdowns this week as well and had over 120 rush yards. So looking good, is not looking decent compared to Horvath, but not as great. So, Heisman Horvath still would take the cake. But yeah, so Warren's my guy this week for sure.
Gotcha.
About Warren, the touchdown pass that he caught, he snapped the ball. He was the center.
I did not know that. So he lined up under center and then caught it? That's so fucking cool.
And ran a seam route. He snapped the ball. And then he lost the guy. He snapped it. I just want to get that out there. My player of the week is going to be Whit Weeks, LSU linebacker. In a game where you needed somebody to step up on defense, he recorded 18 tackles, a forced fumble, a sack, 2 tackles for loss. The forced fumble ultimately changed the game. It allowed LSU to score again right before half and make that thing 17-13. He had 18 tackles, 10 of them were solo. It felt like he had 45 tackles. It felt like every time you looked up, he was at the ball. So I'll give it to Whit Weeks as my player of the week. I mean, that's an incredible 18 tackles against a top 10 team. Yeah. Is an incredible performance.
Lights out. And you have been talking about Whit Weeks since the season started. I remember in the USC game, I was like, hey, who's that kid? And you're like, that's Weeks. That's the guy I've been telling you about. And honestly, he wasn't getting as much shine as he is now with Perkins on the field. He looks like he's kind of that leader that now that Perkins is hurt. But I think that's all we got this week, guys. We will be live, of course, on Friday with our picks that we have. I'll be dropping our picks graphics here in a few minutes to see who it is. Oh, yeah, and there was a shakeup in the leaderboard. There's a tie for the top two. It's Bo and Buddha at the top two. Y'all both. Yeah,
I rolled with OSU. That was my problem, and I rolled with Colorado, who only lost by 3. Both my teams lost by a field goal. I was pissed.
Buddha went 4-0 this week. And yeah, I'm bringing up last place. We're not going to talk about that too much, but hey, it is.
I was going to say what though? You're only down 2 games though.
Yep. I went 2-2. But it is what it is. We'll see how this week pans out with our picks whenever I drop the pick'ems this week, and then we'll make our picks Friday. Anything else for them while we're closing out, fellas?
Don't think so.
I do have this. Not only did I go 4-0, I also picked the margin of victory dead accurate in 2 of them.
Yeah, the LSU game and
the Oregon. I picked them both the margin of victory accurately.
How much did Oregon lose by?
They Oregon won by a point.
Yes, you did.
You did say 1 point.
Yeah, you did say 1 point.
Victory. I was all over
yes,
these games.
I really wish I would have bet that, because you can bet on teams to win by certain point values. Those odds would have been nuts.
Yeah.
What did I pick to win by?
You said Texas, or you said K-State by 7. What did K-State win by?
K-State won by 3. They beat Colorado 31-28.
You said Texas by 17. Texas won by 30.
But
then you said LSU by 3. And then you said Oregon by 1. And I was kind of like, why would he say 1? Like, what? I was like, whatever. I was like, whatever. I was like, I think Ohio State's going to win it anyways. And then look out. Hit the nail on the head.
Right on the head.
Can't fault that one, man. That was a good one. But hey, that's all we got for y'all this week. We'll see y'all Friday on the live, and that's it, man. Y'all have a good one. Hook 'em.
See y'all. Fired Dennis Allen.
First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. Y'all better listen up. This sports talking tough. So if you got a cup, go on and raise it up. I'll raise one with you as we talk about the sports. It's raining stats and rumors. Let us give you the report. This is First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces.